Sup y'all, it's your boy Asmongold, and today we're going to be finishing up Glory of the Hellfire Raider, taking a look at the last three bosses, Tyrant Valhari, Manaroth, and of course Archimonde. Now, this is part 3 of a 3-part series, and so if you want to see part 1 or part 2, there's going to be links in the video as well as in the description. If you just want to see a specific achievement, you don't want to watch the whole video, there's also going to be links to whenever each achievement starts, and so you don't have to click through the whole video trying to find what you're looking for. Now, the first achievement we're going to be taking a look at here is Non-Lethal Enforcer, and this is from obviously Tyrant Valhari. Now, what you have to do here is that there's going to be 3 ads that spawn at the throughout the fight, and the first ad is going to be called the Ancient Enforcer, and you have to keep the Ancient Enforcer alive for the entire fight. As you guys can see there, he spawns, and the way you want to handle this is how we handled it, is you just have a third person as a tank, and you just have this third off tank pick up the Ancient Enforcer and just move him away from everybody else and just do the rest of the fight just as normal. Now, the off tank really only has to do, well, 2 things. You gotta stay alive, okay? And the other thing is make sure the Ancient Enforcer is not facing the raid. And the reason it's important he's not facing the raid is because he casts a spell called Enforcer's Onslaught, and he pretty much just faces it in the direction of of his aggro target, as you can see right there. He's casting it, and he just throws a big fireball. Now, if you are in the way of that, it puts that little fire circle onto you, and I mean, there's no real reason to have that happen. And so it's real simple. Whenever he casts it, just sidestep over and then sidestep back. Like, I mean, come on, it's not really that hard. And so anyway, this achievement is a fucking joke, okay? Like, we killed this on our first try. It was not even hard, all right? And so don't really worry too much about this one, but you do need to worry about the other 2 because they're actually a lot harder. And that's why I just pretty much skipped ahead. And I mean, you guys can pretty much understand what's going on here. And you just do the entire rest of the fight as normal. Now, I didn't really want to go through all the basic mechanics because, again, this is going to be mostly the mechanics that are going to change because you're doing the achievement. Now, also, one thing that is a little bit different here that you do probably want to know, or at least like as a potential problem that could occur, whenever the third ad spawns, a lot of people do like the horseshoe strategy where they take Tyrant Valhari and the last ad around the room in kind of a horseshoe, and you pretty much at that point want to make sure that if you are tanking him to the edge, you don't LOS your healers, you're not out of range of your healers. And that's why right now I moved out from my little cubby hole there, and now I'm over here, but I'm still facing him to where he's not even anywhere near the raid, because it's like, who's fucking, I mean, if you're standing in those ward zones, you're already dead, right? So it doesn't even matter. And so anyway, again, you just pretty much, just finish the boss and make sure this thing doesn't die. Everything else is entirely the same. You just pretty much ignore this thing. Make sure you've got like a healer, like, just like off healing this off tank, and the off tank just facing him away from the raid, and it's just going to fall over. Like, this is probably one of the easiest ones in the entire instance. I was actually worried that it was going to be a lot harder, but it was definitely not. And so anyway, guys, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that you really need to know for this achievement. I don't really think that there is. I'm trying to think before it ends, but I don't really think that there really is, honestly. Just make sure that you have him faced away from the raid, and you keep the off tank healed, and you don't accidentally LOS or outrange your healers in the last phase whenever you're doing the movement around the room. Now, okay, that was the easy one. Okay, that was the easy one. That was like foreplay for the actual 2 achievements that are hard in this entire meta. Okay, the first one, Bad Manaroth. Okay, guess who that's from? Manaroth, by the way. And as you guys can see, so what you really have to do is you have to keep a Doom Lord alive until the last phase, and make sure the Doom Lord is in the Empowered Fellseeker, and then the Empowered Fellseeker will kill the Doom Lord. Now, there are a number of things that are very difficult about this, but don't really get too worried. It's not that hard. Now, the main thing here is that the Doom Lord does not have a lot of health. He's got like, I think in this group he had like 6 million health, and so it's not like, I mean, you can just, just kind of cleave him down with the ads, and so, and you won't to worry about him dying. You do have to worry about that, and so my advice to you is to get a third off tank. Now, what you can do if you don't have a monk or a death knight, and I'll explain why those 2 are important in a second here, is you can have the tanks rotating him back and forth, because he puts a debuff every single time he hits you. If you're a tank, anybody, if he hits you, he puts a debuff on you, and whenever that debuff expires, it deals damage. Whenever he hits you again, it puts another stack on that debuff, and so that's kind of like a taunt, a tank switch mechanic. But if you correctly interrupt all of the Shadow Bolt Novas, which is another cast that he does. Now, you don't really have to interrupt all Shadow Bolt Novas, and it actually kind of helps you in some ways whenever you're doing the, he puts out the Mark of Doom on people. It helps break the Marks of Doom, but again, it really kind of depends on how you want to handle it and how your healing is and how confident your healers are. So really what we had is we had our Monk tank, and you can also do this with the Death Knight tank, and as you guys can see, there's Mark of Doom. Now, you need to make sure that you take damage with Mark of Doom, and the reason for that is if Mark of Doom expires and you haven't taken damage and it's still on you, you die, okay? So you don't want that to happen. Make sure that, you take some form of damage, and it puts a big purple circle around you. Whenever the purple circle expires and, the debuff goes off you because you took enough damage, it does damage to everybody that's in the purple circle. So it's basically like, you guys have done this fight before. There's a hell of a lot of fucking circles, and the achievement is that there's even more of them. Now, I honestly, this took us kind of a while to do, but it's really not all that hard to do. And I do want, before I get too off topic here, so anyway, the reason that you want to have either a Death Knight or Monk tank it is because the debuff that he casts, it's a stacking tank switch debuff, stacks up to 100, and at 100 stacks, I believe it does, it was like either a million or 1.5 million damage whenever it expires. Now, sometimes it will expire regardless, and so that's why it's important to have somebody that has like AMS. DKs have like a million different cooldowns. It's like one of their big strengths. And honestly, guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, I had no idea what to do this debuff. Okay, and so make sure that you do know. And so yeah, the Shadow Bolt Volley can actually help you in clearing the debuffs. It's just you have to make sure that everybody's in the right spot at the right time. Now, in just a second here, you guys know Manaroth is a real sleeper fight. And so I'm going to go ahead and just speed up the video a little bit. Also, you may want to pop Heroism at pretty much at whatever point in the fight to pretty much make it over quicker and to get the Doom Lord out of the way to where you can just be pretty much doing the fight normally. Now, if you need Heroism for the last phase and you're doing this achievement, you're probably going to be having a bad time. And so honestly, I would just use Heroism whenever he hits maybe 60 or 50%, and it's not really going to make too much of a difference, and it's going to get you to that point where he's already casting the empowered Fellseekers quicker, and you're going to have less Marks of Doom, less stress on the raid, and it just gets it over with quicker, and then you can focus on doing the mechanics at the end, which really are not that hard to handle if everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, and if they don't, you're probably not going to be getting this achievement done to begin with. Anyway, so besides those two abilities, the other guy, what's his name, the Doom Lord doesn't really do a whole lot, and so that's why if you have a DK or a Monk, if the debuff is about to expire, you can have the DK do AMS and, all the other million DK cooldowns. Monk has, of course, with the magic thing, diffuse magic. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of handle that with certain tanks. Now, as a warrior tank, I was off-tanking this for a while on our first, night of attempts for this. And then, I actually did have the debuff expire. Debuff lasts for a period of time. And even if you don't want to, even if you do interrupt everything, there's still a probability or a possibility that throughout the fight, the debuff will expire just through RNG, and so you want to be very careful with that. Now, after he gets to his last phase and he starts actually casting the Empowered Fellseeker, it's very easy to actually make the achievement happen. What you have to do is he obviously puts the yellow circle in the on the ground, and then pretty much what you have to do is make sure that the ad is in it, and it will kill him. Like you guys will see, he had a pretty good amount of health whenever the Empowered Fellseeker hit him, and it actually did kill him. The other thing is you can track this achievement, and so don't worry about, as you guys can see, it's red, and whenever Doom Lord dies from the correct, ability, it won't really be too much of an issue. It'll go white, and you'll know that you've done it correctly. And so, again, one of the main things with this is making sure that you don't actually kill the Doom Lord with AoE, making sure that you're able to handle the Marks of Doom throughout the entire fight, which is, those honestly are probably the hardest parts. And you might want to put in an extra healer here, as you guys can see right there. He had the Empowered Fellseeker, he put it down, and then our tank took him over there, and it killed him, and it was no problem, okay? And so make sure that, I would say that he's under at least 15% health, but under that, it should pretty much take care of itself. I wouldn't really worry too much about it. And honestly, he'll be under 15% health just through tank auto attacks throughout the fight. And at this point, honestly, all you have to do is kill the boss. We had one time where we had actually completed the achievement correctly, and I was the only tank alive, and I got knocked off by the glaive toss, and that's why this video took a little bit longer to do, and I didn't have it out earlier, is because I didn't really get that done. But you want to be very careful. That's the moral of the story. Be very careful. Even though it's honestly, it's pretty much over at this point, still be very careful. And Empowered Fellseeker doesn't go out right as soon as he hits his last phase, and so you've got to wait for it even a little bit longer. But again, just with the right coordination and practice, you should be able to get this done without really too much trouble, assuming that you have an off tank that really knows what they're doing and knows whenever to cool down the potential debuff expiring. Now, this is it. this is the hard one. This is pretty much what gets you your wolf or what doesn't. Echoes of Doomfire from Archimonde. Now really what you have to do here is you have to kill Archimonde with Doomfire up. Guess what Doomfire gets spawned by? The Doomfire Spirit. Okay, now Doomfire Spirit, he spawns Doomfire Spirits until he gets to 70% health. And so what we're going to opt to do is right whenever he gets like 75 or 73%, we're going to wait for him to cast another Doomfire Spirit, and then we're going to put it all the way in the corner of the room, and then we're going to push him over, and so we have the optimum amount of time with not really having to deal with as much fire as possible. Also, Doomfire Spirits, after the Doomfire Spirit dies, Doomfire stays in the little area where you're fighting Archimonde for 2 more minutes. And so you can kill the Doomfire Spirit towards the end of the fight, so you don't have to deal with that and the Infernals, depending on what your DPS is. But we'll get to that whenever it becomes more of an issue. Now, honestly, I'm not going to speed this up or anything. I'm going to narrate the whole thing because I do believe that this is probably the hardest one for people to do. And so I want to make sure that people see the entire thing, uncut pretty much. And so except for the wipes, because if y'all saw that, this would, I don't know, like YouTube has a 10-hour limit. It might fit. But anyway, it can be very difficult. And so anyway, what we're going to be doing here, I said that 3 times in a row, is as you guys can see, there's 2 markers down here, and the reason for that is that's where we're going to be putting our banishes in phase 3, and we're also going to be putting the Doomfire Spirit there as well. And so whenever we have the second banish, and after we leave the second banish, we're going to have DPS, the ranged DPS that are in the banish room, finish off the Doomfire Spirit. And so right here, we've got it right at the absolute corner of the room, and so we're not really going to worry about it at all. We're just pretty much going to go somewhere else and forget it even exists. Now, this is going to create a lot more fire, but honestly, guys, it's really not that big of a deal. There's been this recurring theme in World of Warcraft for about 11 years now, where if there's fire on the ground, you have to make sure that you're not in it. And so this is like pretty much another one of those. And so it's really honestly not that hard to deal with. It's just you have to make sure that you don't stand in the fire, and it does kind of limit your movement a little bit. But honestly, if you know what you're doing and everybody in the group is aware of the mechanics and they know how to handle them, this shouldn't really be too hard to do. Now, whenever he gets to 40%, and you can also, by the way, besides the 40% thing, is you can also pretty much have the Allure of Flames wherever you want, because Allure of Flames is a good way to kind of control where the Doomfire goes and where it doesn't go. And so what you want to do is whenever you're doing the banishes and everything, and right before the banishes start to go out, you want to make sure that the Doomfire is not anywhere near where the actual Doomfire Spirit is going to be, because then it would be more difficult for you to go out and then put the banishes in the correct spot. And really, even though this is a very big area, since you have all of this Doomfire covering the room and everything like that, you're going to run out of room. Now, honestly, I'll tell you something else, is that we had one attempt where we got him to like 2 million health, and the Doomfire spawned, or it despawned because we killed the Doomfire Spirit, and I actually called a wipe, and it was like really, really close. And so, honestly, if you've got the DPS, I would recommend not even killing the Doomfire Spirit at all. There's not really going to be that big of a difference between, the entire fight with fire and the entire fight minus 2 minutes with fire. And so don't really worry about it too much. And also then you put yourself on a timer, and then it's, extra levels of stress. And so really it comes down to, if you have the DPS to just push them without really having to worry about the fire, then I would recommend just doing that. This does really come down to being a big DPS check because more and more fire covers the room. But honestly, I wouldn't really worry too much about it because, if you've got, I would say, I think the average item level, if I didn't say before, in this group was about 710. And so most people might now have 710, and, the people in this group now have about 720. If we were to go back and do this again, we would probably do it in 1 or 2 tries, honestly. It was not really that hard to do. Once we had the correct strategy down, the strategy is what was really holding us back. And so now that we have Allure of Flames going out, we just go ahead and move away. And again, see, that was kind of bad there, and since we didn't really have we didn't really have everything in the right spot. And so here we are, we have the Allure of Flames on the other side, and so now we're going to be able to take the banishes over to the over to the 2 markers, and then whenever the second banish would come up, we were supposed to kill the Doomfire Spirit and then stop the the fire from continuing to spawn, and then the boss would be dead within 2 minutes. That was kind of the way that we planned it out at. And so as you guys can see, there we are, and the first nether banish is going right over there. And honestly, like at this point, it can be a little bit more difficult, but again, it's just more or less ad control and handling fire while just handling everything else. As long as you're aware of your feet and you're paying attention, there shouldn't really be too much trouble. I don't think that he casts a Lure of Flames in the last phase anyway, and so you don't really have to worry about the fire quite as much, going everywhere. And so don't really worry too much about that. Just want to send maybe, I think we opted to send one more extra person than we needed to in order to get out of this phase as quick as possible, and so we could handle all of the ads, and so everything that wasn't really an issue, would continue to not be an issue, just because, as I said before, it can get really hectic towards the end. Now, as you guys saw just for a second there, the Doomfire Spirit was already very low in health, and that was planned, and the reason for that is so whenever we are in the last phase, we have to spend as little time as possible focusing on killing this Doomfire Spirit, and we can just pretty much do a couple kill shots, a couple casts into it, all the casters can, and then you're going to be pretty much good to go, to where you don't have to DPS it down from 100 to 0. And so if you do want to kill the Doomfire Spirit towards the end of the fight, make sure that you get it low health before it actually occurs. A couple of other things that are basic mechanics that I should mention, I guess, since this could be a little bit more difficult, is that you do want to make sure that you don't send less than 3 people down into the Twisting Nether, and the reason for that is, of course, he will heal for, I think it's like 3% health or something like that, and it will end up kind of wasting more time than it saves. And if you get to a situation like that, I would just have like pretty much the low DPS or maybe a healer go down there and just die as like just 3 people and just have them suicide basically and finish the boss off. Pretty much at this point, this is whenever, as I said, this is whenever it gets really hectic. You just need to handle the infernals, make sure that you don't have them stacked up, and other than that, make sure that you kill those little the little shadow fiends that come out. I honestly, we had been doing this fight for like a month, and I had no idea what those things did. But apparently, if they get to you, they make you take less healing, and so you want to kill those really quick. But I think that's more of a range thing, and so don't really worry about that too much. And as you guys can see right now, the fire's already been chasing us, but we've been making very good use of our room here. And as you guys can obviously see, because we have the nether banishes covered by fire, and so we're kind of like saving as much space as possible in terms of, avoiding the infernal, impacts, and also being able to avoid the fire and, the void zones that the Twisting Nether banishes leave. And so it's just all of these things at the same time, plus the fire, and honestly, that's really all you really have to worry about. As I said before, if you have a 7-10-ish item level group, you shouldn't really worry about being able to do this too much, and I think this is the last set we had, and make sure that if you don't kill the infernals, if you want to burn them down, make sure that the infernals will not hit 100 energy or focus or whatever, because then they start doing this AoE thing and it deals damage to everybody. As you guys saw, that one almost did it, and you will wipe very, very quickly, and so be very careful about that. And outside of that, honestly, this is just pretty much the same fight, and again, like, this is very much towards the end of the fight, and we've still got Doomfire spawning, and so even if you do not kill the Doomfire Spirit, you can still handle it. And again, it's really up to the person who has the Doomfire. Like, whoever has it right now is a fucking champion. Juan Sheepson is a fucking champion, because he's got that Doomfire completely exactly the where we need it to be, and it's not an issue. If you have somebody who's cutting the Doomfire in a wrong way, cuts you guys off, you don't really have a Lure of Flames to reset it at the last phase, and so you've just got to make sure that everything is just on point perfectly. And like, usually I would say that a lot of the kills for this achievement, or getting this achievement in with this, fucking infernals everywhere, like the living shadows, people were dying, and everything else. But there it is done. And so we did it even with the Doomfire Spirit alive. You don't have to do it with it alive, but it sometimes would make it a little bit easier depending on if your range are able to hit it or not. And also, after the Doomfire Spirit dies, it's about 2 minutes between whenever it dies and all of the Doomfire despawns, and so you've got pretty much a 2-minute timer after it dies. And there's the mount. There it is, right there. Like, I'm still riding this mount around. Like, if you guys are on KT and you see me, like, you know I'm riding this mount around. Like, I'm actually pretty happy about this. I was glad that we did it. I think we're still the only group on the server that has done it, and so hopefully you guys will be able to do it too. And so if you guys have any questions on how I did any of the achievements, or I guess like advice for your group or whatever, go ahead and comment or ask me, and I'll probably be able to help you, depending. Not always, but I think that depending on what it is, I can probably, I guess, give some people a little bit of insight. But yeah, anyway, guys, it's really all it takes. And so, again, if you have any questions, let me know. But if not, thanks for watching, and like, comment, subscribe.